Hello once again, and I've just updated my laptop and it's tried to get me to send my device history, my activity history to Microsoft. No, I don't need these idiots to know that I'm playing Snowbound Blood. Anyway, I feel like we should have a bit of a chat before we get started. I forgot one of the things I was going to say, but yeah, I feel very hot right now, but unfortunately I can't open my window because my window faces onto a play park where kids and teenagers hang out, and I don't need them to know that I am also playing Snowbound Blood. Also, the next one has a Plague Doctor mask, and I have a Plague Doctor beak mask somewhere, and I feel like I should wear it in order to raise the professionalness and the reality of my talking. Alas, I do not know where it is. But yeah, let's get on with it and stop fucking talking. Masked Hermit. Ooh. Spooky. Against your better judgment, you are choosing to follow the directives of a voice with no name. Now, 3 days after having experienced this barren boneyard for the first time, you've returned for an appointment. Though you've been interrogated by recordings and falling instrument cases, and had things literally blow up in your face, and almost killed a man over a tip-off from this mysterious entity, you find yourself again carrying out his requests. Some might think you foolish, but you know, and perhaps find it painful to admit, that each step has also brought you more information than you'd have gleaned otherwise. Every trail left leaves clues. Every piece you move changes the lay of the board. You are here for the long game, and you're betting that eventually there will be a slip-up. For now, you bid a brief farewell to your bike, again parked neatly as far into the boneyard as it could go. Your appointment is with a hermit, but you were quick to make the connections over the last few days. Hermit is one of the dark web aliases you noted down while following Bitcon's tracks. An alias, much like a mask, can obfuscate and hide the truth. Your job has always been to search out obfuscations, though, so you step once more into the graveyard, sliding down some weak soil into the pit below. Your rendezvous is scheduled to occur soon. You make your way to its location, the massive skull of Baragonith. A horned skull like this would have belonged to one of the breeds of skull titans that roam the landscape. You find the skull, and like so much of this barren planet, it is deteriorating, broken and falling apart, certainly quite a landmark. You take a moment to scan the area. The chaotic mess of bones strewn about the field make the place rife with hiding spots. Some parasites, freshly hatched, skitter past in the distance. Being back here again fills you with a sense of circularity, if one can be so geometrically inclined. There's a feeling of chasing your tail this case, and you're not particularly pleased about it. Twice now you've come to this very area, and you honestly feel that is 2 times too many. An unbonded lusus skitters through one eye hole and out the other. You hear the soft grit of a shoe against the dirt and whirl around. A figure approaches, shadowed by the darkness. It's hard to make them out in the moonlight, and your hand jumps to the hilt of your blade, gripping it carefully. The figure approaches, hunching their body down, and you can finally see them clearly. You're pretty sure this is who you're after. There's no need for that now, is there? We have an appointment, Regulator. You decide to deny that de-escalation and keep your hand on your sword. The light glow from the mask he wears seems to stare through you, and you can't see much of anything beneath. Like an alias, a mask can hide many things. Now, why would a chief regulator have a face-to-face appointment with me? Or perhaps face-to-mask is more appropriate. Lol. I think you'll find that's unimportant. I'm here at least. Goodness, so defensive. I guess it can't be helped dealing with someone like you. Someone like you? You can't help but feel like you're being oddly sized up yourself. There's no obvious signs of a weapon being concealed under that triangular cloak, but the absence of visible arms of either sort keeps you tense. I received a tip that you may have relevant information pertaining to my current case. A vital resource has been stolen, and I intend to chase down the culprit. Noxious Did brief me, yes. Funny fellow. No wonder you seem so drained of energy. Well now, that's something new. Noxious was another online name you came across in your search. Although it's likely that this mysterious entity knows how to cover their tracks, you definitely file this under X for extremely relevant. But for you to reveal yourself here on my turf? Lol. You must be desperate. That gets a grit of your teeth. You dislike that there is a seed of truth in it. You wouldn't be here if so many other paths you'd already taken had resolved more favourably. And while you've managed to add several trolls to a strange roster of familiarity, actual advances towards a conclusion to this burglary deal have been few and far between. You crave progress, even if it means stepping foot into treacherous territory. You regret that thought almost immediately, as more sounds make themselves heard. It's clear where they are coming from. A small group similar to those trolls you faced 3 days prior is shuffling at a pace only they could find quick. Your hand is about to tug Proserpina from your hip and show them a thing or two, but before you can, you notice motion from the hunched individual. In one swift motion, Hermit pulls a spherical vial of something from his cloak, flinging it to the oncoming crowd. That's a cool mask. It explodes on contact with the rough ground, knocking about half of the surprisingly large group back. I didn't notice the smile underneath the beak. After the surprisingly large crowd back with enough force to cause head trauma if your recent experience is anything to go by. That's not even the real kicker. The liquid inside seems to be partially corrosive. It's clear that the skin of some of the creatures has begun to burn away. A few more approach and you take the chance to repay the motion. Get down! You swing widely as the masked individual bobs down, cleanly decapitating the head off one of the approaching hordes. Pivoting around his now even more hunched body, you follow it up with a well-placed kick. Although you don't necessarily gut the creatures like a certain doctor, they are sent back, crashing into the side of the skull. Hermit dusts himself off, extending back to half-hunched height. Fancy footwork there. I must admit, you do have some truly potent brews yourself. Oh, that old thing? That's nothing. You couldn't even handle my strongest potions, Regulator. A few parasites exit the head now with no body of its own. Hermit squishes one with his boot before sighing. You see him wipe his feet on the dirt, scratching off the sticky resin. Withdrawing a cleaning cloth of your own, you begin to take care of your sword. The brown blood comes off easily enough. Another link in a cyclic chain. It takes you back to the case you finished before this one. Such closure was tantalising, and feels so out of reach at the moment. A stomp of feet breaks you out of your introspection. As much as I enjoy messing with the corpses, out here isn't the best place to chat. Why don't we go to the bunker, have a nice cold OJ, and wait for this all to blow over? He seems to be motioning you around the side of the skeleton. With your blade now out, you feel adequately equipped to deal with any sort of double crossing, and cautiously follow the masked man towards a large bone of these skeletal remains. With a quick shove, it becomes clear that it was covering a trapdoor, hastily assembled in the ground. I hope you'll protect this secret for me. It's in your nature, no? After you, Regulator. The phrasing strikes you as odd. Usually you're the type to search out and expose things which are hidden. Those of ill repute rarely air their dirty deeds in public. I can't make any promises. You give the surrounds one last look and send Hermit a judging glare before stepping down. Beneath the raised trapdoor is a descending staircase, the bottom of which you can't see, yet another point of familiarity. Not too long ago, a different sketchy man of the Shadow Realm led you down a staircase awfully similar to this one. In fact, if you didn't know better, you would say it looks positively identical. You hear the rumble behind you, the trapdoor being shut, and you can only assume that there is some complicated mechanism set up to reset the bone from this side. The thought doesn't dwell for long in your mind. With the outside moon's light covered, the glow from the bottom of the stairs makes itself known. Soon you reach it, exiting into a rather jam-packed basement. Ooh, TV! This seems really cosy. Ah, bunker, sweet bunker. Well, since you're here, no sense keeping up appearances. You are surprised he's dropping his guard so quickly. Time to see who this hermit really is. He removes his mask. You have no idea who this is. It shouldn't really be surprising, though. This world is partially full of so many trolls, and you've only had the fortune of coming across those in corporate, and those who would draw corporate's ire, and a few others with which you've become otherwise entangled. And while you may be meeting more and more of them by the day, it certainly doesn't mean you've yet exhausted this planet's declining population. As you begin to return your blade to your hilt, Hermit reaches for another orange vial from what you can only hope is an organised collection of elixirs. He takes a swig of it before holding it towards you. Care for some? You politely decline. It's taxing to try and not let the repulsion settling into your stomach bore through into your face, like the acid you sincerely hope is not in that vial. He shrugs and downs the rest of the bottle himself, before pocketing the empty bottle underneath his cloak. More for me, then. The monotone way he laughs sends a shudder down your spine. It would probably be best to get on with things. If you don't mind, Hermit, I'd appreciate some answers. Of course, ask away. Bandaged arms. I only briefly glimpsed at them while you were in motion, but your arms seem rather worse for wear. Would you mind if I took a closer look? Cecily? Are you asking me to retrieve arms from chest? Yes, I'm asking you to retrieve your arms from your chest. He starts to wiggle his arms out from under the cloak, clearly taking his time to tease you with it. First he reveals his hands, followed by the rest of the arms. He lets out a scoff about halfway through the forearm's exit. All the while, Hermit's face is plastered with the most shit-eating grin imaginable. You think he could give some of the Reptonian chuckle bunkers a run from their money. Well, here they are. The bandages run much further up his arms than you initially thought. They might even run beneath his undershirt. It's hard to tell. That's certainly some first aid. These bandages go all the way. It's best this way. It hides the pain. As much as you'd like to push further on that point, something else grabs your attention. There's a feeling in the back of your head, almost like a headache spreading across your mind. You place a hand to your head for a moment, groaning in pain. It almost feels like something's trying to pull at your thoughts, tugging them a certain way. This doesn't feel right. You need to focus. You remember back to Mashiri and her meditative session. There is a moment of emptiness in your thoughts. The soft tug is gone. Shaking your head, you feel the last cobwebs of confusion brush off your mind. Hermit seems to be staring much more intently than you remember a moment ago. Oh ho, I've got nothing to worry about, it seems, except perhaps your next question. Sure, that sounds alright, you guess. Time for another question, then. I'm noting a theme here. Lots of potions, vials, and liquids of all assortments. Certainly the room seems full of them and not much else. There are many different colours on display here, and you're hoping this isn't a repeat of a certain navy-blooded scientist's laboratory. I am a seller of all manner of chemical concoctions. Acids, potions, curatives, poisons. You need it, I can make it. And I assume most people on the dark web search you out for this reason. It's a living, yes. Dare I ask how you have come to be in possession of so many different creations? They're all failures. And people buy failures. Failure is a relative term. I'm sure you've failed quite a bit yourself. Each one of these chemical creations is the result of carefully followed steps, and either they result in what I am trying to make, or they don't. If they don't, I find out what they do, and then I sell them. Judging by the volume of vials, Hermit has seen a lot of failure. You feel a strange sense of camaraderie, though. This whole case so far has seen you mostly at dead ends, and though some of the leads you've taken haven't led to immediate success, each one brought new information and misunderstanding. Information and understanding, I feel... you feel you understand what he's saying. So then, what are you after? Oh, now that is truly the question. It is elusive, and only talked of in hushed whispers between these mad enough to pursue it. The water of life. Aqua vitae. It's not what you would call common knowledge, but someone of your profession comes across enough laboratory settings and strange individuals to have at least heard the term once or twice. Most dismiss this practice. It seems as bordering on fanatical fancy, but... After what you've come to know from this investigation, and the way something like the lifeblood of the vivifier could fit into those practices, Hermit instantly rises a few notches on the skepticism meter. In your more recent memory lingers the pursuit of a devoted man, desperately searching for a cure through careful experimentation, the shared hope of redeeming this fractured world. In contrast, the haphazard and often self-destructive nature of those who pursue aqua vitae seem impossible to contain. What you have heard about the water of life is more misguided optimism. The liquid is said to wash rivers clean, to bring those who are suffering back to reality once more. The thought of someone willingly interacting with water at all almost has you revisiting an earlier meal. Almost. You're a professional after all. Nevertheless, the parallels to this missing filter are too large to ignore. One could naturally assume it would be a vital component of such a creation. Someone searching for such an elixir would need some seriously powerful items, I assume, like a stolen filter of import. Lol, I know all about your missing goods regulator. But rest assured I have no connection to the theft. If I had, do you think I would be here in front of you? Ha ha ha. That's true enough, you surmise. If you had an elixir of life-giving blood fall into your lap, you'd hardly be meeting with strangers either. Much less so if it were as relevant to your work as it is to his. You quickly scan the room of bottled potions, looking for anything else to ask about, your eyes drawn to a particularly dark mix towards the back of the room. It seems to visibly churn within its glassy confines. You find yourself strangely mesmerised, its motion similar to those conical coulis candles that are all the rage from sweeps back. That darker vial in the back, what type of brew is that one? No, absolutely not. How about a curative? I have some nice salves you might enjoy. It seems you won't be getting much more out of him about that particular liquid. Best to move on then. You've no interest in receiving second aid, or any other ordinals for that matter. Beyond the comfortably large space you're in, it's clear that there are several other connecting rooms branching out of this central hub. You note as much, the self-reclaimed hermit aloud. I suppose I'm yet to give you a tour. What a terrible host I am. He gestures to the room to the left from the stairwell entrance. The path towards it seems to be increasingly littered with those potion flasks, plant life, and a number of other curios whose origins you're not entirely sure you could name. To the left here is the herb room, where I cultivate all manner of greenery that takes my fancy. It's connected to the main lab area too. Before you can comment on the possible dangers of lab work underground, he's already moving on. With a slight motion of his arms, Hermit next indicates the opposite direction. To the right, my mate's Brit Marie's workshop. I'm sorry, another troll works down here? You decide to leave the Matesprit revelation alone for now. That could send your think pan back to Headache City, population U. Why, Cecily, she lives down here, but you're jumping the gun a little, if you'll let me continue, lol. You roll your eyes, sighing. It seems he takes that as an invitation to resume. Marie and I have a room at the very back of this complex. Dia's room is to the right, opposite our ablution facilities. Sometimes others stay. We try to be accommodating. I know it doesn't seem like much, but to us it's home. Certainly an interesting choice of hive. It's well suited, you suppose, at least from what you've gleaned of Hermit thus far. And Dia, another bondmate? No, she's... We look after her. She lost everything. There's an odd quiet that hangs in the air. For the first time you can hear the emptiness of the room, the way a plant rustles from an errant breeze, swept leafwards from some hard-to-see ventilation. The gap at least feels comforting, reassuring. It's clear that he doesn't want to get into it, though he continues to guard his own expressions. You can respect that, even if it's for a man who you're still not as sure is friend or foe. Whether they're in tight cahoots with Noxious or not, loss is universal. That's very noble of you. Hermit tilts his head, but says nothing more. Perhaps another question is in order instead. You figure it's about time you get to the crux of things. The only reason you're here is apparently on the request of a mysterious figure known for unsolicited calls and sometimes having just a bit too much information. But just how Hermit is connected to him and the bigger plot remains an unknown. My biggest unanswered question as all of this is perhaps the most obvious. How do you know Noxious? As I said before, I am a seller of many things to many people. To whom I sell, that is unimportant. As long as they can fund the work I believe he is doing, I will accept their loops. I hope you're aware I could easily bring you in over these admissions alone. Black market dealings, while common, aren't exactly above the board. Above the board here is a turn of phrase referring to the many corporate boards of directors usually in charge of making decisions on these sorts of cases. You doubt they would be forgiving. Oh, of course, regulator. I would love to see you try. I have no intention of letting you separate me and my work. He grabs a nearby orange potion and seemingly downs it in a single threatening gulp, but you can't be swayed by such blasé intimidation. Perhaps unfortunately for me, I have little information. Noxious is notorious for taking what he needs from you. A pickpocketer of particulars, someone in the shadows, trading goods and information, silhouetted, staying low. I've traded with him myself, but it's amounted to little more than this conversation with you outside of these deals. Great, this feels like another dead end. Another troll in a string of mutated waterfowl beast chasers that has led you no closer to the mysterious puppet master tugging you along. Though it has guided you to some interesting confrontations, a new visor and a collection of youths you would protect with your life, it has lacked the tasty morsels of progress or insight you were hoping for. Your eyes furrow as you pinch the bridge of your nose. Collapsing into what you were hoping is a chair of some description, you allow yourself a moment to compose your thoughts. Some nearby vials idly clink against each other and the ringing sound causes you to wince. Bringing Hermit in would certainly give you some closure, but you can't help shaking that he is currently your best link to Noxious himself. And though you hate how it gets to you in the pit of your chest, the man is clearly responsible for the well-being of many people. Some immediate, some through his highly questionable work. For every poison there is a cure. You are quite an enigma, Hermit. He gives a showy bow and returns, smiling a long grin. I do try my best. Everyone wears masks, Cecily. Even yourself. They are so good at hiding these pesky feelings we don't want others to see. If you'll indulge me, I have a question of my own, lol. Should we bring back those we have lost? All at once you can feel your own mask slip, for just the briefest of seconds. The slightest widening of your eyes, letting loose 10 sweeps worth of remorse in a single controlled motion. Can he tell? It's hard to say. Right now, his mask holds up better than yours. Through the time you've spent examining and scrutinising Okius's work, you've never once considered the immediate applications, the possible ramifications, the potential it could bring. And here Hermit himself is toiling away, in parallel on a concoction he believes could do the very same. You could be with her again, couldn't you? Tap tap, tap tap, tap tap, tap tap. You started to tap at your palms again. What would you say if you could see that glowing face again? If you have a choice, would you bring her back? The part of you that aches over her threatens to make this decision for you. There's a lot of good people could do with that blood. There's a lot of bad as well. Like any mixture, it depends on what you add to it. What you feed it. You've seen for yourself these husks that wander above. I, like many others, want to see this broken world healed. To patch up the scars, the pain, to undo the hurt. It's almost imperceptible, but you catch it, the slight twitch of his cheek, a crack in the disguise. But I am not alone in this ambition, lol. There are others who seek alternative methods of retribution. One of them chooses to face these forces head-on and reenact his own brand of justice. I don't think he cares much for my destructive tendencies, but, well, few can handle my concoctions. There's a name for him on the shadow web. Ashbringer. Ooh, that's Necron, isn't it? For someone quite so adept with that mechanical arm of his, he's no closer to stopping the scourge than I. Maybe you should pay him a visit. You have a pretty good idea of who he's referencing. There's a hint of threat in that last line, and your mind instantly considers this an admission from Hermit that Noxious may have plans for the so-called Ashbringer. I appreciate the heads up, and I'm sure you'll understand that I intend to keep this place on my radar regardless. Naturally, Cecily, you're welcome to my tame stock whenever you please. I'm sure we can work out a deal. The very thought of being limited to the paltry dregs of his arsenal gets your scoff of disapproval. Surely if I were going into battle I would require your strongest potions. You could not handle my strongest potions, Regulator. He almost brushed off his accusations as some strange joke, but on second glance it becomes clear that this anger is real. He allows himself a moment to exhale before loosening his fists. Strength in the hands of those who believe themselves fit to wield it. It can be a curse, it can cause immense pain. I reiterate to you, Regulator, should we bring back those we have lost? Should we? I too know how it feels, that in some part they are not here, and when we assume responsibility for it, that weighs on you, it weighs on your skin. Sometimes life is simply unfair. The breath you had been holding for the last minute finally escapes your lips. You touch a hand to your arm, tracing skin that is lined with reminders of the way you throw yourself into this profession. The recollection of a blade plunged beside the blood pressure of a bronze-blooded troll, and the affirmation you made them take, same as all the others. All you do for her. The mask has finally slipped away. Before you stands someone who has suffered great loss, and in knowing that hardship, he seeks out to rescue others from a similar fate. You have a feeling Dia is in good hands. At times like this, it can seem like the only solace you have is in the most eternal of places. When I find myself questioning why I keep going, or in the moments when I dole out retribution, I have a ritual, something I undertake to reaffirm to myself why I do what I do. You raise your hands above your head and begin to recite that well-trodden oath. I, Cecily Apara, do on this day make a promise. This I pledge to any maker, or to the souls who lie beyond, that what we do for them, for those we have lost. We will send them as many as needed to avenge them. You let your words settle in the air. That's the second part of proselytizing you've done, as in many Weises. This one, however, feels slightly more honest than a spur-of-the-moment preaching to some children of the corn. I pledge to any maker or souls who lie beyond that what we do for them, for those we have lost. We will send as many as needed to avenge them. This I say and bind to the All-Mother with my name. Cadlis Rancor. Oh, what a touching sentiment, and I trust that's another secret you'll keep nice and hidden for me, no? Don't answer that, I already know you will. Well, maybe you don't completely understand him, but Cadlis has at least earned some of your respect, and he hasn't killed you yet, which is something you consider to be a good sign of a person. You give a brief farewell, one short wave to the cypress-blooded troll, and a nod and a smile to the young troll in the hallway, curiously peeking into the cacophony. Climbing back up to the stairway, you give a vocal command asking Eves to call up Orica. Ceci! So good to hear from you again! I need Necron's whereabouts. Think you can track him down? Aw, he's waving bye-bye. Ooh, that's an interesting name. Cadlis, looks Welsh, but that just because of the letter Y in it, I don't know. Ooh, we've got some more stuff on the desk. Anyway, that is volume 6, and that was pretty cool. I liked Roru and I liked Cadlis. I can see why Colonel Snivy likes them too, so I guess until I play volume 7, that'll be it.